The void was silent, except for the faint hum of struggling engines. Far beyond the outer reaches of human-mapped space, the Solarian nebula shimmered with restless colors, painting the darkness in sickly hues of green and violet. Among the swirling cosmic storms, an alien fleet drifted helplessly. Their vessels were massive, elegant, and foreign warships that once inspired awe, now fractured and powerless. Signals pinged endlessly into the black, but none returned. No one came. Until the sensors of a human exploratory cruiser flickered to life, cutting through the nebula like a silver knife. Captain Ethan Callahan's eyes narrowed as he studied the readings. The fleet wasn't attacking. It wasn't hiding. They were stranded, vulnerable, and terrified. Humanity had long been considered a distant, unpredictable force, but Ethan knew instinctively that what lay ahead was a choice, to watch, or to act. And humanity had never been known for inaction. The nebula lay stretched across the void like a wounded eye, green and violet clouds swirling in slow, sinister eddies. Inside it, massive alien warships drifted, powerless, their hulls scarred and engines silent. Some were as long as city blocks, their once proud silhouettes now broken and skeletal, adrift like monuments to forgotten glory. The void carried no sound, but the USS Valor's sensors screamed of desperation. Captain Ethan Callahan sat in the bridge chair, hands resting lightly on the armrests, though every muscle in his body was coiled. His dark eyes were fixed on the holoscreen, where the alien fleet floated helplessly across a dozen sectors. He had never seen a situation like this, a fleet, fully capable of unimaginable destruction, stranded and exposed in the heart of the Solarian nebula. And worse, something was coming for them. "Lieutenant Harper," he said, his voice calm but tight with urgency, patched through the translation protocols. "Open all channels. Let's see who or what we're dealing with." Sarah Harper, a young but brilliant communications officer, tapped at the console, her fingers moving with the speed and precision of a concert pianist. She had the uncanny ability to decode alien dialects faster than most seasoned officers, and right now, her skills were their lifeline. Static crackled across the speakers, and finally, a coherent message emerged, fractured but understandable. "Help, stranded, engines dead, pursuit, warships approaching." Ethan's jaw clenched. No hedging. No diplomacy. Just raw, unfiltered fear. The aliens didn't ask, they pleaded. Marcus Diaz, Ethan's second-in-command, leaned over the console, frowning. "They've been drifting for how long? Weeks? Months? Why haven't they contacted anyone sooner?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. His gaze never left the holographic fleet. "Pride," he said finally. "Or fear? Maybe both. They've survived this long without help. But the moment they're cornered, desperation drives them to signal the nearest power. And that power is us." The Valor slipped out of warp, its sleek hull glinting faintly against the nebula's iridescent clouds. Slowly, the human sensors began to scan the alien vessels in detail. Plasma scars ran across the largest ships like wounds, smaller ships floated inert, their control surfaces unresponsive. Smoke curled in space, suspended in gravity's absence, and debris drifted like cosmic snow. "Unreal," Marcus muttered. "This is a fleet that could wipe out entire star systems, and yet they're like sitting ducks." Ethan didn't respond. He was too busy calculating the risks, the stakes. One wrong move and Valor could become just another wreck drifting among the nebula's colors. But leaving the fleet to die? That was never an option. Harper's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, I've managed to initiate a limited communication link with their flagship. They're trying to negotiate, but their comprehension of human methods, it's minimal. They don't know if we're friend or foe yet." Ethan nodded slowly. "Then we show them who we are. Get the engineering drones ready, Marcus. We're going to pull them out of this storm." The rescue began under the eerie glow of the nebula. Drones detached from the Valor, their sleek frames darting among floating debris, weaving between the scarred hulls of alien vessels. Each drone carried specialized tools, plasma welders, fusion core stabilizers, and adaptive conduits designed for interstellar repair. Inside the alien flagship, High Commander Vallis paced the bridge, his 6 limbs jerking with tension. His voice was harsh, but trembling. "Our engines, failing. If the Marauders arrive before repairs are complete, we are finished." His officers' holographic displays blinked red with warnings: core instability, shield fluctuations, power reroutes failing. Fear, raw and palpable, rippled through the crew. None had expected their vulnerability to be so public, so absolute. And then the human drones arrived. Wallace watched in disbelief as tiny metallic shapes latched onto his flagship's engine ports, initiating repairs with precision beyond his comprehension. Panels flickered back to life, fusion cores thrummed, and energy conduits lit up in a synchronized dance. One by one, the fleet's ships began to stir, their engines groaning, their hulls shuddering, their lights brightening like the first stars of dawn. Ethan watched the progress from the Valor's bridge. "They trust us," he muttered, almost to himself. "They have no choice but to trust us. And we cannot fail." Hours passed in tense silence, punctuated only by the hum of drones and the occasional alarm from a ship struggling to stabilize. Then Harper's voice broke through the bridge comms. "Captain, sensors are spiking. Multiple contacts incoming. The Marauders have found them, or found us." Ethan's eyes narrowed at the display. A swarm of sleek, jagged warships was closing fast, their engines leaving red trails against the nebulous green haze. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered. "Not for us, but for them. We don't destroy. We defend." Marcus tightened his grip on the helm. "They're fast. If we don't intercept, the alien fleet dies," Ethan finished. "And I won't let that happen. Not on my watch." The alien flagship shuddered as the first shots from the Marauders hit near its hull, scattering energy sparks across the nebula clouds. Wallace barked orders, but hesitation gripped his crew. For the first time, they truly understood what helplessness felt like. Then a human drone intervened. It deployed an energy shield, absorbing plasma bolts that would have torn through the alien vessel. Another drone attached a conduit to the main reactor, stabilizing power fluctuations. The alien crew stared, stunned. "They should fight to save us," whispered one young officer. Ethan's voice cut over comms again, steady and calm. "Hold position. Keep your shields up. We've got this." The human fleet did not engage in offensive maneuvers yet. Their movements were precise, almost surgical, defensive, protective, relentless. Every missile intercepted, every beam deflected, every unstable hull stabilized. Slowly, imperceptibly, the Marauders' advance slowed. Wallace stared at the human captain's commands, awe and disbelief etched into his face. How do they do this without fear? Without hesitation? "They do it because it matters," Ethan said softly, almost to himself. "Because when someone's life depends on it, we act. That's what makes us human." The first wave of attacks receded, leaving the alien fleet alive but still fragile. The humans continued their repair work, reinforcing engines, stabilizing shields, and coordinating alien crews with methodical patience. Slowly, hope began to bloom where fear had reigned. Ethan allowed himself a fleeting sense of pride. "They're moving again," he said. "Not at full power, but enough. Enough to survive." But even in this fragile triumph, the shadow of danger lingered. The Marauders had retreated for now, but they would return. And when they did, Ethan knew the next encounter would demand more than strategy or firepower. It would demand trust, courage, and the unyielding will to protect life that transcended species. As the alien fleet drifted slowly toward safer sectors, Wallace's voice reached Ethan over the secure channel. "Human, we owe you our lives. Tell me, why?" Ethan leaned forward, eyes hard and unwavering. "Because someone had to. Because survival is worth more than pride. Because life itself demands action." A silence followed, heavy with unspoken acknowledgement. Somewhere in the nebula, amid the swirling clouds and drifting wreckage, two species had begun a fragile, unlikely bond. And in the infinite darkness of space, that bond might just be enough to turn the tide. The nebula seemed to hold its breath as the Marauder fleet emerged from the shadows. Crimson streaks of energy tore across the swirling green and violet clouds, illuminating drifting wreckage and the newly repaired alien vessels in stark relief. The human crew aboard the USS Valor moved with the precision of a well-oiled machine, every hand, every eye, every sensor working in perfect harmony. Captain Ethan Callahan's jaw was tight, his dark eyes scanning the holoscreen. Hundreds of marauder ships, jagged and spindly, advanced with the deadly intent of predators closing on prey. But this time, the prey would not be helpless. "Brace for impact," Marcus Diaz, the pilot, growled, his fingers gripping the helm as the Valor executed a precise slingshot maneuver through the nebula's electrical storms. The ship shuddered violently as arcs of plasma danced across its hull, yet Marcus's steady hands guided them like a master at the helm of a racing starfighter. Ethan's voice rang out across the bridge, calm but authoritative. "Remember, we're not here to destroy. We're here to protect. Keep them alive. Keep the fleet alive. Every ship that survives is a life worth saving." Lieutenant Sarah Harper tapped frantically at her console. "Captain, Marauder weapons are faster than we predicted. Their trajectory vectors are constantly changing, they're adapting. If we don't move the fleet, they'll pick us apart ship by ship." Ethan's gaze flicked to the alien flagship, which now glowed faintly with the renewed power of its engines. Its massive silhouette trembled as the crew attempted maneuvers, unsure of human guidance but desperate to survive. "Marcus, guide them. Keep the fleet in formation. Harper, focus on shield coordination. We'll give them a fighting chance." The first exchange was brutal. Crimson blasts tore through the nebula, illuminating drifting debris and fractured hulls like cosmic fireworks. Human drones zipped through the chaos, intercepting plasma strikes, stabilizing weakened shields, and rerouting power to engines moments before they would fail. One drone latched onto the alien flagship's power core, temporarily stabilizing a failing fusion reactor. The flagship groaned, its immense hull shuddering under the strain. On board the alien vessel, High Commander Wallace barked orders, six limbs gesturing in precise, almost frantic motions. "Shields, divert all power to forward arrays. Engines, manual override now." His voice was raw with fear, yet underlined with a desperate hope he could not fully comprehend. For the first time, he watched the humans act in real time. Tiny, seemingly fragile machines controlled by unknown beings darted across his ship, deflecting deadly energy and repairing engines in ways that should have been impossible. His crew whispered in awe. They fight to save us. They do it," Ethan said softly, almost to himself, "because it matters. Because when someone's life depends on it, you act or you fail entirely." The Marauder fleet was relentless. Dozens of their ships flanked the alien vessels, firing in synchronized volleys designed to break formations and crush defenses. But the humans had anticipated this. Ethan directed the Valor and its drones into a coordinated defense pattern, weaving through the nebula's electrically charged currents like dancers in a deadly ballet. Plasma arcs and swirling magnetic storms became both cover and weapon, masking the human fleet's movements and creating traps that the Marauders stumbled into blindly. Marcus's hands flew over the helm controls as he executed a complex barrel roll maneuver, dodging a barrage that would have shredded the Valor's hull. "They're trying to flank us," he shouted, "but we're one step ahead." Ethan's eyes narrowed at the holoscreen. He could see the enemy's confusion. The Marauders, used to overwhelming their prey with sheer firepower, were faltering in the face of human tactics. It was not brute force, they couldn't match that, but human ingenuity, coordination, and timing were turning the tide. On the alien flagship, Wallace finally understood. He studied the human drones as they repaired engines and deflected incoming attacks. "These humans, they are tactical geniuses," he murmured. "Not for conquest, for life. They fight to save, not to destroy." A young alien engineer, trembling with exhaustion and relief, looked up at Wallace. They are saving us, High Commander. We can survive this." "Yes," Wallace said, his voice low, "but only because we let them help. Humanity's power lies not in their weapons, but in their will." The battle stretched across the nebula like a violent storm, chaotic yet strangely choreographed. Marauder warships struck repeatedly, only to be deflected by shield arrays or intercepted by drones that could anticipate their trajectory. Every alien vessel became a participant, following human guidance, learning on the fly, adapting. The nebulous storms acted as both ally and hazard, electrical discharges refracting energy blasts, plasma arcs dancing unpredictably across the void. Hours passed in a tense, almost surreal ballet of fire and movement. Human and alien crews worked in synchrony, saving ships, stabilizing engines, and dodging death with every breath. Slowly, imperceptibly, the marauders began to falter. Their attacks grew disorganized, desperate, as they realized the prey they had thought helpless was no longer defenseless. Ethan called a temporary halt to the human offensive. "Maintain defensive positions," he ordered, voice calm but resolute. "No ship goes down, not if we can prevent it." The alien fleet, barely functional at first, now moved with coordination. Engines hummed steadily, shields glowed reliably, and crew morale rose with each surviving vessel. For the first time, hope began to replace fear. Valis' voice came over the secure channel, tinged with disbelief. "Human, we owe you our survival. Why risk yourselves for us?" Ethan's gaze never wavered. "Because someone has to. Because survival is worth more than pride. Because life itself demands action when you can make a difference." The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. The aliens, once proud and isolated, now realized that trust in an unexpected ally could be a weapon as potent as any plasma cannon. As the marauders retreated, regrouping beyond the nebula's edge, Ethan allowed himself a rare moment to breathe. The alien fleet was alive, moving as one, fragile but free. The nebula's storm clouds reflected light across repaired hulls, casting everything in a surreal, almost sacred glow. Marcus leaned back, wiping sweat from his brow. "I've never seen anything like it." They survived," Ethan said, cutting him off, voice quiet but resolute. "Because we showed them they could. That's all that matters." On the alien flagship, Valis turned to his crew. "We were abandoned by our pride," he said, voice reverent. "And yet, we are alive because of these humans. Perhaps, we can learn what survival truly means." Ethan watched from the Valor, dark eyes scanning the slowly stabilizing fleet. The battle had not ended, it was only the first engagement. The marauders would return, and when they did, the fight would demand more than weapons. It would demand trust, courage, and an unwavering determination to protect life, no matter the cost. And in that moment, he knew humanity had given the alien fleet more than safety. They had given them hope. Of the nebula hung heavy in the void, a tapestry of swirling green and violet clouds that reflected the fires of battle like distant lightning. The alien fleet, once fractured and drifting, now moved with tentative coordination, engines humming in careful rhythm. Humanity's presence had turned despair into action, fear into hope, but the danger had not vanished. Somewhere beyond the nebula's edge, the marauder fleet had regrouped, their jagged ships circling like vultures. Captain Ethan Callahan paced the USS Valor's bridge, his jaw tight, eyes flicking between holographic displays of alien and human vessels. "This is it," he muttered. "They'll be back. And when they are, we don't just defend. We strike with precision." Lieutenant Harper tapped at her console, a holographic map of the nebula unfolding above her hands. "Captain, the alien crews are improving faster than expected. They're learning our coordination, picking up on our tactical patterns. If we combine forces, we can hit the marauders where it hurts and make them regret crossing us." Marcus Diaz leaned over her shoulder, hands still steady on the helm controls. "They're trusting us now. Every move we make is a lesson. By the time the marauders engage, these aliens won't just survive, they'll fight like we do." Ethan's gaze hardened. "Then we prepare. Humanity doesn't just react, we anticipate. Let's turn the nebula itself into a trap." For days, the human and alien crews trained together in tense harmony. On board the alien flagship, Valis observed Ethan directing the maneuvers of drones and repair units with a calm authority that seemed almost supernatural. The aliens learned to stabilize engines mid-combat, to predict enemy fire, to move as one entity across the void. In the docking bays, human engineers guided alien crews in jury-rigging adaptive conduits, stabilizing shields, and reinforcing hulls. It was grueling work, the clang of tools echoing through the metallic halls, punctuated by the occasional hum of an overcharged energy core.
And yet, despite fatigue, a fragile camaraderie was forming.
Wallace approached Ethan as he oversaw the calibration of shield arrays.
"I underestimated you, humanity," he admitted, his voice low, reverent.
"We believed ourselves superior in every aspect, yet here you are, teaching us survival, teaching us cooperation."
Ethan didn't look up from his work. "Superiority isn't measured by weapons or fleets," he said quietly.
"It's measured by what you do when no one is watching, and by what you do when someone's life depends on it."
Wallace considered this for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Then we follow your lead."
The Marauders struck before dawn, their jagged warships emerging from the shadows with deadly intent.
But the combined fleet was ready. Every vessel, alien and human, moved as a single organism.
The nebula's swirling currents became their weapon, plasma storms obscured movements, electrical discharges refracted enemy fire, and asteroid fragments provided cover and obstacles.
Ethan's voice cut through the comms, steady and commanding. "Remember, offense and defense are one. Protect each other. Strike where they least expect it. Keep the fleet alive at all costs."
The battle erupted with violent intensity. Marauder ships lunged forward, plasma lances tearing through space, leaving streaks of fiery red against the nebula's eerie glow.
Alien pilots, once uncertain, now executed complex evasive maneuvers in perfect unison, guided by human tactics.
Drones intercepted incoming fire with uncanny precision, rerouting energy to stabilize failing shields or engines at the last second. Marcus piloted the Valor through the storm, weaving between energy arcs and drifting debris, drawing Marauder attention away from vulnerable ships.
"They're trying to surround us," he shouted. "Stay sharp, every second counts." In the heart of the chaos, Wallace marveled at the transformation of his crew. "They've adapted," he whispered to an officer. "They are fighting like humans.
Not for conquest, not for glory, but for survival and for each other." The fleet moved like one mind, each vessel covering another, every strike coordinated to exploit the Marauders' weaknesses. Alien and human pilots alike learned to anticipate energy discharges, to trap enemy vessels in plasma currents, to force them into fatal trajectories.
The nebula itself became a weapon, its storms bending and amplifying every human and alien maneuver.
Ethan's voice remained steady over the comms.
"Push forward. Strike together. No hesitation." A Marauder flagship attempted a direct assault on the alien flagship, its massive plasma cannon charging for a kill shot.
Human drones intercepted, latching onto its weapon arrays and overloading them in a burst of energy. The Marauder vessel shuddered violently, forced to retreat as alien engines roared to life, propelling it out of the nebula's deadly currents.
The battle continued in a chaotic ballet of light and shadow, strategy and improvisation.
Slowly, imperceptibly, the Marauder fleet began to falter. Their attacks grew disorganized, frantic, as they realized the prey they had assumed helpless was now an unstoppable force of combined ingenuity. Finally, the last Marauder vessel fled beyond the nebula's edge, limping and battered, leaving the combined fleet alive but exhausted. Ethan allowed himself a moment to breathe, scanning the once stranded alien fleet now stabilized and cohesive. Engines hummed steadily, shields glowed brightly, and the ships moved in coordinated formation for the first time in weeks.
Wallace turned to Ethan, his alien eyes reflecting relief and awe. "Your people, you have saved us.
Not just from death, but from ourselves. Perhaps now we can learn what it truly means to survive without hatred guiding us."
Ethan leaned against the console, dark eyes surveying the fleet. "You survived because you let us help. Humanity isn't the strongest in the galaxy, we just refuse to watch someone die when we can do something about it."
A young alien engineer approached, trembling with exhaustion and wonder.
We never believed life could be protected like this. Not by anyone. And yet, here you are." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's what it means to be human. We act because we must. We fight because life is worth it. And we protect because hope is stronger than fear."
The nebula slowly began to clear, sunlight breaking through distant stars and reflecting off the repaired hulls of the alien vessels.
Once adrift, powerless, and terrified, they now sailed together as a fleet united, not by obligation, not by conquest, but by trust and shared survival.
Ethan watched the ships move in formation, pride swelling quietly in his chest. Humanity had shown the galaxy something no weapon could, that courage, ingenuity, and compassion could turn despair into triumph. Vala's voice, calm and measured, echoed through the calms. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humanity. Perhaps there is more to survival than strength alone. Today, you have taught us more than battle. You have taught us life. Ethan's gaze drifted to the stars beyond the nebula, infinite and shimmering. And humanity will keep teaching, he said softly. Because that is what we do. We act when others hesitate. We choose hope when others fear. And we stand, even when the odds are impossible. The alien fleet continued forward, engines thrumming in perfect harmony. Their colors, once dull and broken, now reflected the light of distant suns. In that moment, the nebula was no longer a tomb, but a crucible of rebirth, forging an alliance that would echo across the galaxy. Ethan Callahan watched it all from the Bridge of the Valor, heart swelling with quiet pride. Humanity had arrived in the void not as conquerors, not as strangers, but as saviors. And across the stars, a fleet once stranded and lost now moved forward, united, stronger, and alive, because hope, courage, and action could change everything. In the endless darkness of space, two species had learned a lesson neither would forget. Survival was not just a measure of strength, but of trust, of courage, and of the choice to act when the universe demanded it. And somewhere deep in the nebula, the echo of that choice would ripple across the galaxy, carrying a simple, undeniable truth: humanity would never abandon life when it could be saved.